Welcome back. Hard work and determination pays off. For the children of the members of the St. Lucia Civil Service Cooperative Credit Union who excel scholastically, this means the disbursement of scholarships and bursaries. On Thursday, the 19th of September, the selected few met at the headquarters of the credit union for a handing over ceremony. More in this report.
Education is the key to success, and paying the way along the academic journey may come at a hefty cost. For excelling students whose parents are members of the St. Lucia Civil Service Cooperative Credit Union, a welcome assistance was given on Thursday, 19th September. Member Service Manager SLCCCU Olive Senville says the 37-year-long tradition of rewarding members' children looks to carry on a mandate by the organization of caring for community and educational development.
We actually have on record a child in 1983 getting a scholarship from us. So right now we've got the numbers up to 8 scholarships per year that we give to Sir Arthur, because one of our credit union philosophy, principle number 7, is education and care for community. So because we care about the nation and the children of our members and our community, we invest every year more than $160,000 just in our education scholarship and bursary program.
The scholarship awardees were selected based on their academic performance, while bursary receivers were selected based on need. One awarded recipient, Carice Mooney, expresses her gratitude to the St. Lucia Civil Service Cooperative Credit Union for funding her scholastic endeavors.
Right now I'm doing the CAPE program at Sir Arthur, and I'm studying law as well as sociology in hopes to become a future lawyer. I'm not sure exactly what field yet, but as I go on I'll explore and see what fits me and what I personally like. I feel very honored, I feel very happy to be receiving the scholarship today, and I just like to give a big thank you to the credit union for giving me this scholarship.
Meanwhile, Senville says, despite the start of school, a check will be provided to the recipients to cover the cost of the financial school year, inclusive of transportation fees, books, stationery, and additionally, the cost of CAPE examination will also be paid by the credit union. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Solange Alfred.
In May 2012, the Council of the OECS Education of Ministers endorsed a new sector strategy which will guide education development in the OECS. The OECS Commission has partnered with USAID for support of the OECS Early Learners Program, ELP. The ELP entails improving reading skills and interest among early learners. The program aims to improve the reading achievement levels of all learners at the early primary level, grade K to grade 6.
The OECS Early Learners Program, ELP, is a reading development program for young children. It is administered by the OECS Commission and funded by the United States Agency for International Development, USAID. The ELP intends to address aspects of policy and practice in order to improve the reading levels of students at early primary level. The ELP is based on the belief that if students are able to read at or above their primary grade level, they will be better prepared to succeed at higher primary and secondary levels. The ELP is a project of the OECS Education Sector Strategy and as such follows the vision of Every Learner Succeeds. 7 strategic areas for improving literacy were identified. Reading specialist Lisa Terrence underscores the benefits of the program as it progresses over the next 18 months.
The vision of the education sector strategy is that every learner succeeds. And to achieve that vision, 7 strategic imperatives have been identified. The Early Learners Program allows us to respond to a number of these imperatives, such as improvements in teacher professional development, curriculum and assessment, and the quality of teaching and learning. We are grateful that the U.S. government, through USAID, has approved funding for the ELP and has further granted us an extension of 18 months ending September 2020 to improve the reading levels of our K-3 students in the region, thus allowing us to address one of the cross-cutting themes of improving achievement in levels in core subject areas such as literacy.
The reading specialist commends the work of the St. Lucian team involved in the program.
There are 6 teams in the 6 member states where the ELP is implemented, planning similar activities. And what I can say for this St. Lucia team is that they have a drive to make ELP work. and to ensure that our young readers in our infant and primary schools are reading well. I know how tirelessly that this team works on the implementation of the ELP, and I do hope that your ministry and all of you who are here will give the full support to them as they undertake the implementation of activities here.
She underscores the importance of the Treaty of Basseterre in concept and implementation of this program.
Where ELP fits in the whole educational terrain of the OECS, okay? Everything that we plan for education in the region is driven first by the revised Treaty of Basseterre. Okay, now I'll not do a social studies lesson on that or history. We need to go back to those books and just remind ourselves what that treaty is. But essentially, what it does is that it establishes the economic union for the OECS. The treaty has facilitated a coordinated approach to national and regional development, especially in the field of education. And it is expected that through harmonization of efforts, the region will stimulate growth and development, which is not only competitive but sustainable. Our educational programs and initiatives like the ELP are also driven by the OECS Education Sector Strategy, the OESS, which is actually the overarching education strategy of the OECS and used by member states like St. Lucia to align their national strategies and plans.
As reading is an essential skill for a child's further academic development and later professional skills, especially in the emerging knowledge-based society, the ELP is expected to ultimately help advance the socio-economic development of OECS countries. For Hot 7 News, I am Jacques Wooding.
One good deed deserves another. This is the thinking behind the project transforming tourism value chains in developing countries and small island developing states. A conference conducted on Thursday, the 19th of September, saw key stakeholders in the tourism industry come together to discuss more efficient, low-carbon development. More in this report.
The accommodation sector will look to benefit from a low-carbon and resource-efficient action plan launched on Thursday, September 19th. The vision of the action plan is to support St. Lucia to become a sustainable, competitive, and resilient destination. The targets outlined at the launch include a 25% reduction in energy consumption, 30% reduction in waste generation by the accommodation sector, and a 50% reduction in food waste. National Project Coordinator representing the Travel Foundation, Martin Satney, describes the importance of reaching those targets and the impact it has on small developing states.
Economically, it has to make economic sense to the persons who invest their money in it. But more importantly, it has to be resilient and it has to be environmentally friendly. Otherwise, we will destroy it. As we've seen, the way we manage our plastics, the way we manage our various, the waste that is generated, the amount of fossil-based energy sources that we use, which emit greenhouse gases, which impact on global warming, and which ultimately impacts on climate change, and we witness more intense and more ferocious hurricanes and so on, which ultimately comes back to affect our country. So we have to come up, so the action plan is about coming up, it focuses primarily on two core areas, and that is energy and waste management.
Minister for Tourism Dominic Fede was the keynote speaker during the launch. He says creating a balance in accommodation and sustainability is essential for the durability of the island as a destination.
Sustainable tourism is the key to our success. We've got to make sure that when we undertake a tourism industry, that we can leave the tourism assets, whether they're socio-cultural, whether they are environmental, that we leave them there for many, many years to come so that markets and future generations can enjoy them. And that is the key to success, the longevity of our businesses. So, usually there could be the short-term quest for maximum return on investment. And that oftentimes would collide with the need for sustainability, but striking that balance is absolutely critical.
Moreover, head of the Caribbean Sub-Regional Office UN Environment Program, Vincent Sweeney, says small developing islands like St. Lucia have a big role to play in influencing larger countries in reducing their carbon footprint.
A lot of us feel in the region that we don't have much, we're not causing much of the problem, and we probably can't do much. But surprisingly, the little things that we do to demonstrate that we are serious can expand our influence in the larger countries, because it's easy for them to say, well, you all are not doing anything, so why should we do anything? But if we can do the small measures that are manageable, then when we go to large negotiations, like what is coming up next week in New York, the Climate Summit, we can say, look, the small islands are doing all that we can. So now it's up to you as a larger country, the G7 and so on, to do your part. So, even though we may not be influencing climate change in terms of mitigation efforts, at least we can be leading by example. And I think that's a critical element that the countries of the region have to focus on.
To achieve the targets outlined during the launch, the action plan focuses on smart energy use and working towards the goal of zero waste. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Solange Alfred.
The Department of Fisheries, in collaboration with the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, FAO, is hosting a workshop for stakeholders this week to develop a national fisheries policy which will inform the manner in which the subsector initiates actions to sustain, safeguard, and expand fisheries livelihoods.
The workshop is an integral component of the Technical Cooperation Project, which is entitled Assistance with the Development of a National Policy on Fisheries. Its objective is to revise the National Fisheries Plan in order to incorporate clear policy statements on a number of thematic areas impacting the local fisheries, marine and aquaculture sector. Deputy Chief Fisheries Officer attached to the Department of Fisheries, Thomas Nelson, explains concerns such as illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing, post-harvest issues on the ground such as sanitary and phytosanitary measures, trade, and the overall impact of climate change on the industry are forefront of this week's deliberations.
We have had an agriculture policy. We have also had a food and nutrition policy that really speaks to how we should move forward in terms of the development of the agriculture sector that includes fisheries. And the agricultural policy speaks to food security, it speaks to sustainability, it speaks to pollution reduction, it speaks to a lot of the legal aspects in relation to whether it be land management, ocean management, and a whole lot more. So this fisheries policy is not being developed in isolation of work that has been undertaken in the past.
Fishery and Aquaculture Officer of the FAO, Dr. Yvette Deiwadi, says her organization remains committed to assisting governments in implementing the best strategies for securing fisheries livelihoods, and thus applauds the initiative of St. Lucia's fisheries leaders in developing a policy document that is unique and representative of the reality of the local fisheries sector.
This morning we were reviewing an important document which is now in force in St. Lucia, the SASAP, the Sectoral Adaptation to Climate Change and Action Plan. This workshop has enabled to see the limitations that exist in the SASAP with the lenses that we have, critical lenses, but constructive lenses that we have. We realize that the SASAP document has some limitations, and this policy actually will benefit these gaps analysis to make it an instrument which is very useful to the country.
The role of fisheries and marine resources in the national economy is important. Improving the productivity of fisheries is vital in ensuring food and nutrition security, improve fisheries livelihoods, and promote economic growth. Results, fisheries leaders say, will be sustainable once policies to protect the environment and natural resources are fully implemented by law. From the Ministry of Agriculture, I am Amanda Faye Clark reporting.
You're watching the Hot 7 Nightly News. Up next is tennis in Glasgow with all the sporting action.